Chris King, today's honorary doctorate, served a distinguished and decorated career in the Army. He is a veteran, educator, author, engineer, environmentalist, humanitarian, and family man. He loves seeing the success of others because to him, it is more about the people than anything else. If you've had the pleasure of meeting Chris, then you know about his great sense of humor. He described golfing in Kabul while dodging landmines as just the crazy stuff you do in the Army when you have too much time on your hands. He has always followed the philosophy, better be sorry that you did than sorry that you didn't. Wendell Christopher King's story began in 1949 in Knoxville, Tennessee. After moving around, Chris returned to Tennessee to live with his grandparents. As a child, he loved the outdoors, playing sports, hunting, and fishing. After finishing top of his class in high school, Chris attended Tennessee Tech, where he majored in chemical engineering and received an ROTC scholarship. His senior year, Chris was offered a fellowship for a master's in environmental engineering. Having just met his future wife Jackie, who was still working on her undergraduate degree, he thought sticking around sounded like a good idea. After graduation, Chris served in the Military Service Corps for environmental engineers. Chris only planned to serve 4 years, but, quote, some old colonels asked him if he'd like to work in Heidelberg, Germany. Chris and Jackie decided this was an opportunity they couldn't pass up. Although Europe was an amazing experience, an opportunity in Huntsville, Alabama became available, and Chris thought it sounded like important work. A $10 billion project to dispose a massive stockpile of chemical weapons. Jackie and Chris made Huntsville their home and found it to be a great place to raise their 3 sons. The Army fully funded Chris to return to school, where he earned his PhD in civil engineering from the University of Tennessee. Dr. King, now also a lieutenant colonel, served in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait during the Persian Gulf War. He was the officer in charge of assessing health risk for U.S. troops exposed to smoke and oil fires. Dr. King describes it as the biggest mess you'd ever seen. For his next chapter, Dr. King headed to West Point. He worked at West Point for 14 years, starting as associate professor, to program director, to department head. His proudest and favorite moment at West Point was handing his middle son Matthew his diploma. From 1995 until 2007, Dr. King was a subject matter expert for NATO and worked primarily on the cleanup of hazardous military waste abandoned in Eastern Europe. He served as the officer to relocate the U.S. practice jungle operations out of Panama. Chris says that's where the Cayman ate my golf ball. He came right up out of the pond, ate my golf ball, and left. He was part of the Organization for Military Cooperation Afghanistan that helped build an Afghan military academy. He says his favorite restaurant was KFC, Kabul Fried Chicken. After 36 years of service, Dr. King left West Point and the Army. He was then hired by General Petraeus as the first civilian dean for the U.S. Army Command and General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. This is when his relationship with K-State started. Together, they developed programs that benefited both schools. Dr. King developed faculty academic credentialing standards, implemented modern academic assessment programs, and created an honors program that focused on developing strategic leaders for the military and our nation. He was the first Dean Emeritus. After 45 years around the world, 3 children and 3 grandchildren, Chris moved back to the farm in Tennessee. His list of accomplishments is manifold, and for an expert on waste, Chris never wasted a chance. Always, better be sorry that you did than sorry that you didn't. Chris has done so much for so many, and he says the people he's touched and his family are his greatest achievement. Please welcome Dr. Chris King.